Welcome to Comic Power. I am your host, Comic Killer 72. Welcome to Wicked Wednesday, where we discuss all the new comics that's coming out this week. Every Wednesday is like Christmas for us nerds because that's when the new comics come out. These are my recommendations for the best books to pick up on Wednesday. But here's some other information first. As I mentioned earlier before, I'm getting married, so I'm cutting back my publishing schedule to one video a week through October 4th. Then after that, there will be no Wicked Wednesday on October 11th and October 18th. My regular publishing schedule will resume on October 25th, Wicked Wednesday. In other news, that Star Wars 10-pack bundle I was selling only went for $5.50 on eBay. Can you believe how low it went? When I tell you about these auctions, you need to get in because you never know what price they're going to go at. I'm getting real close to the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I appreciate the support I've gotten from everyone. I promise a giveaway when I hit that number, and I will do it, but of course it will be after the wedding. For now, let's get into New Comic Day. That's what we're here for. And DC Comics is giving us Batman. Issue number 31. It's a continuation of the storyline of The War of Jokes and Riddles by Tom King. People were concerned when Scott Snyder left that the quality would fall off on Batman, but that has not been the case. Tom King has been a real winner on this series. Batman is in good hands. This is excellent. Next up is Batman Red Death number 1. This is a one-shot that comes out of the developments from the Dark Knight's Metal series. There are creatures that are popping up in our world that are coming from the Dark Multiverse. You really have to be reading Dark Knight's Metal for any of this to make any sense. So yeah, you might want to get on board with that. Next up is Harley Quinn number 28. This is part 2 of the Vote Harley storyline, where she decides to run for mayor to try to unseat a corrupt politician. Of course, the Frank Cho variants continue, and we have Statue of Liberty Harley surrounded by her hyenas. Frank really understands the crazy, sexy coolness of the character. Is this simply perfect? Next up is Mr. Miracle by Jack Kirby. This is a graphic novel that contains all 18 issues of the Mr. Miracle run that started in 1971 when Jack Kirby came to DC Comics. It also includes one of my favorite DC characters in Big Barda. I can't wait till they depict this character in live action. It's going to be completely nuts if they keep it comic accurate. Mr. Miracle is back in 2017 with a 12-issue maxi series that's been extremely popular, and it's written by Tom King. That guy is a beast. Next up is Superman number 31, and he has to reluctantly team up with Lex Luthor again for a common goal. I love that cover of Supes there catching that plane. That is just so cool. That's classic Supes, baby. Always doing something good for his fellow man and saving the day. Next up is Aquaman number 28. This is another title that I just don't talk about enough that is excellent and deserves more praise. He's taking on a crab-like crime baron named Crush. That's a tongue twister. Try to say that 5 times fast. And look at this cover B variant by Joshua Milton. That is just gorgeous. This is why I give so much praise to DC for Rebirth that was headed by Jeff Johns. They slimmed down the number of titles and let them improve their quality control. Comics should sell off a great story and art and not off of gimmicks. Let me tone it down before I start another round of controversy. Next up is a very exciting miniseries with Wonder Woman Conan, number 1 of a 6-part miniseries. This is in partnership with Dark Horse Comics. All I gotta say is love it, love it, love it, love it. This is definitely something cool that I want. But doesn't Conan have a mullet? I'm pretty sure that's a mullet. Business in the front, party in the back. I'm not sure about that look on Conan, but I'll definitely take this. Next up, let's see what the mighty Marvel Comics is up to. And that's going to be Captain America number 25, which is going to a second print. This is a Secret Empire tie-in, and this went to a second printing because that cover is so gorgeous. Next up is Generations, Miss Marvel and Miss Marvel number 1. This is the Miss Marvel Carol Danvers in her original 1970s uniform with the Kamala Khan, the current new Miss Marvel. The Carol Danvers character has been updated to Captain Marvel, and her movie comes out in 2019. The Kamala Khan character has a very bright future. Her first appearance was in Captain Marvel number 14. Next up is Generations, Unworthy Thor and the Mighty Thor number 1, which is going to a second printing with a variant cover by Matina. If you don't know what's going on here, the Unworthy Thor is Thor Odinson, and the current Thor is Jane Foster, who is deemed worthy. In her human form, she is dying from cancer, but when she picks up the hammer, she's a complete badass that takes no prisoners. Next up is Journey to Star Wars Last Jedi, Captain Phasma number 2. I've been extra giddy about all the Star Wars properties in Marvel Comics, but I think this is the weakest one, but I did want to mention it. Speaking of Star Wars, up next is Star Wars Annual number 3. This is a story that focuses on Han and Leia as a group of killers trying to hunt them down and kill them. I assume it's going to be this group that's on the cover B variant shown here. I do not recognize these characters. If anyone knows who they are, please speak up in the comment section. Next up is Secret Empire number 7 and number 8, which are both going to second prints. This miniseries crossover dragged on so long that a lot of stores start dropping their orders around issue number 6. So the later issues are probably under ordered, so therefore the second prints. Next up is Venomverse number 3 of a 5-part miniseries. And yeah, we got this Deadpool looking monster on here, but Marvel is just experimenting at this point to see what will make a good toy that they can sell. There will be a total of 4 covers on this, including the Clayton Crane connecting variant. Of all the artists that are depicting Venom these days, Crane's interpretation is probably my favorite. Next up is Totally Awesome Hulk number 22, which is going to a second print. Of course it is. It's a no-brainer. The first print sold out. The price went up and a lot of people overpaid for this. Chasing the hype machine and afraid of being left out. That's a great cover though, one of the best of the year. Also dropping this week is the Totally Awesome Hulk number 23. And if this cover seems familiar to you, then it should. It's a swipe of King Size Hulk number 1 from 1968. This is known as the Atlas Hulk cover, and it's even cooler than ever 50 years later. Next up is our report on independent comics and small publishers. First up is Sunflower, which is going on trade paperback, which collects the whole complete miniseries from 451 Media. This is the same company in which Michael Bay, the Hollywood director, has a piece of. So source material for future movies or television? Maybe. Speculation or no speculation, the 451 Media stuff looks awesome and are great reads too. Thumbs up. Next up is Toy Etica number 2 from Action Lab Entertainment. Issue number 1 picked up a lot of buzz last month because it had very low print running and it was able to find a following. Sort of like the way ElfQuest did over 30 years ago. It's the story of a small race of beings that make money on the side modeling for kids' toys for humans. Next up is Dark Ark number 1 from Aftershock Comics. This is a retelling of the Noah's Ark story in which a sorcerer builds a second ark to try to save the evil monsters of the world. This is written by Cullen Bunn, and he's basically the Neil Gaiman of his generation. He's the go-to guy for horror. Next up, and also from Aftershock Comics, is The World of Animosity number 1. Aftershock is similar to Image in that the people that create the actual work own it. But so far in 2 years of existence, they've only had one real hit, and that's Animosity. It's the story about how animals come awake one day and take revenge against humans, which they call their slave masters. The World of Animosity is basically a one-shot that tries to explain the universe, what has happened so far, where all the characters are, what their motivations are, etc. So it's basically like a source book. Like I mentioned before, Aftershock has not had another big hit besides Animosity, so they want to make sure they take care of this property. Next up is Mr. Crypt number 1 from Alternate Comics. What's so special about this publisher is that they print on newsprint, which is very cheap, so they can reduce the price of their comics. They only sell them for $1.50. So there's no real risk in taking a flyer on their comics. Mr. Crypt is obviously a horror comedy, as you can see. Next up is Big Trouble in Little China, Old Man Jack number 1 from Boom Studios. This is a comic adaptation of characters of the same name, which starred Kurt Russell, who's playing the villain in the Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, by the way. The movie came out in 1986, but this version of the character in the comic is aged up to the year 2020. So this could be a sneaky way of testing the waters to see if audiences like it, so they can make a rebooted movie starring Kurt Russell reprising this role. That would actually be pretty cool. And in the movie, yeah, he's sporting a mullet. There's that word again. Who had the best mullet in the 80s, by the way? I think it was Billy Ray Cyrus. Yeah, Miley's father. For people under 30, they might not remember that her dad was actually a recording artist first. Mullets are always funny, but let's get back on track with Black Hammer number 13 from Dark Horse Comics. This is the Eisner-nominated title from Jeff Lemire. This guy must write comics in his sleep because he has so many good titles out. Descender, Bloodshot Reborn. He was writing Moon Knight one time. He delivers the goods, no doubt. I don't have enough time to explain what's going on in Black Hammer. You might want to get a trade paperback to catch up. Next up is Killer Instinct number 1 from Dynamite Entertainment. This is supernatural space action horror. That cover looks awesome, and this has been selling very well pre-sale. It could be a surprise hit. The publisher seems to believe in it. They're shipping it with 9 different covers. And in case you wonder, yes, this does tie into the game, and one of the 9 variants is a gaming subscription variant shown here. Next up, and also from Dynamite Comics, is Wonder Woman 77 meets the Bionic Woman. These characters are very important because they had live action TV series in the late 70s when women were not depicted as action heroes very often. They were only the love interest or the damsel in distress in those days. So both of these characters were way before their time, but hey, Wonder Woman was depicted back in 1940 kicking ass. This is issue number 6 in the finale of this miniseries. Go ahead and pick up whatever your favorite cover is. They both look great. Next up is Samurai Jack, Quantum Jack, number 1 of a 5-part miniseries from IDW Publishing. In this version of the character, he's the leader of a ruthless biker gang. This is issue number 1 of a 5-part miniseries. Next up, and also from IDW Comics, is Half Past Danger 2, Dead to Rights number 1 of a 5-part miniseries. This includes some convoluted plot, which includes a World War II story where they're fighting Nazis, but also includes dinosaurs. I have to admit, I'm intrigued. Next up, let's see what Valiant Comics is up to, and they always deliver some special work. And first up is Secret Weapons number 4. This is the finale of this incredible miniseries. I can't stop talking about it. It's probably the best mutant story that Marvel never told. Issue number 1 went through 3 printings due to demand, and it was the pick of the week for June the 28th. So I advise you to go back and get it, or get the trade paperback when this concludes. For full plot details, go back and watch the June 28th, 2017 video. I'll have the link in the description. Jenny Prison has gotten famous for her Wonder Woman cover V variants. She lends her talent to the cause on this as well. Look at that. That just looks captivating. Next up is the speculation pick of the week. And that's going to be Bloodshot Salvation number 1. The Bloodshot character is very similar to Wolverine in that he was experimented on to be the ultimate weapon. He went rogue from his captors and now he's searching for his past. His origin is similar to Wolverine, but his power set is closer to Deathlock meets the Terminator meets RoboCop. This issue is the first full appearance of his daughter named Jessie. She was first mentioned in Bloodshot number 0, which I named the pick of the week for March 22nd, 2017. Go back and watch that. Reborn number 0 was also the first mention of the new big bad, which is Project Omen. The events in Salvation seem to be taking place about 8 years after Bloodshot 0. And the bad guys are coming for Bloodshot and his daughter. And it's going to look very similar to what you saw in the Logan movie, with Logan and X-23 fighting for survival. Jessie will sure to be a major character in Valiant Comics for the years to come, so be sure to pick up Bloodshot number 0, her first mention, and Bloodshot Salvation, which I'm talking about here, which is her first full appearance. And don't forget about Valiant's 2017 free comic book release, which looks like this. It's her first published preview. The grading companies never consider these previews as first appearances, but hey, if you can get it free and sell it for $10 to $15 later, it's worth it. So go ahead and find this. Of course, there's going to be a ton of variants, including a brush metal 1 in 250 variant. At the time I made this video, the brush metal variant was going for about $250. Before we close, let's see what Image is up to. They always deliver good stuff. First up is Gasolina number 1, and this is going to be my runner-up pick of the week. It's about fugitive newlyweds that take up arms against a cartel in Mexico. Looks like we got some Bonnie and Clyde action horror going on here, and I can't wait to read this. Next up is Angelic number 1. This is a future world where the human race is extinct and the only thing around is genetically modified animals. It promises winged monkeys, techno dolphins, and quantum alley cats. It's being sold as Wall-E meets Watership Down. Next up is Glitter Bomb, the Fame Game number 1. This is the story about a woman who wants to be famous so bad and she's willing to do anything for it, but she has to embrace a national tragedy that has put her in the spotlight. So we have a horror whodunit psychological thriller here. That looks interesting. Next up is Shirtless Bear Fighter number 4 of a 5-part miniseries. This is one of the funniest things I've read in a very long time. In this issue, he has to team up with the enemy to fight against a common foe who's called the Logger and his chainsaw-wielding henchmen. This would be like if Wolverine had to team up with Sabretooth to fight Mr. Sinister or something like that. Shirtless Bear Fighter number 1 was the pick of the week for June 21st, 2017. I advise you to go back and watch that video as well for more context on the character. And last but not least is the graphic novel Son of Shaolin, OGN. It's a kung fu epic that's set in the back alleys and subway tunnels of Harlem, New York. And our hero is a guy named Kyrie, who's a street artist who learns that he's the last living descendant of a secret set of ancient Shaolin elders. He's taught to master his craft by the mysterious Mr. Fong, and the villain is a relentless killer called the Red Fist. This property has already been optioned for a movie with Sony, and Dwayne the Rock Johnson is attached to produce. I'm in, take my money. You know the drill. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, and share these videos on social media so others learn about comic power. That's about it for today. Thank you for watching Wicked Wednesday, where I review all the new comic books for a new comic day. Be sure to follow my blog at comicpower.net. On social media, follow me at facebook.com/comicpower.net and comicpower-universe.tumblr.com. And don't forget twitter.com/comicpowersub. I also sell comics on eBay at this link. This is Comic Killer 72 for Comic Power saying bye-bye. And don't forget to share this video, click on subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and tell everyone you know about this channel to help it grow. Thank you for your support.